This is from the website thewaythetruthandthelife.net.
This is Wednesday, March 18th, 2015. This is the introduction to Level 28, the Cosmos. Forgive the background. I'm in my Russian apartment and we're in the middle of remodeling. The bathroom and kitchen are beautiful, but the bedrooms are and the living room are in the middle. So pardon the background. But this level, the cosmos, the starting level of building up on a foundation of physical reality. Two very important things here. I started and initiated the epistemological encyclopedia with the foundation of physical reality. That's section 1.1.1, where these postulates were stated without much depth. And then in the foundation to talk about the physical reality that we were investigating, I went into the foundation needed math and the physical reality and postulates, and derived the universal law of gravitation in section 2.1. But that was all a foundation for then digging deeper to get an articulate foundation for responding to what is the meaning of existence. What is existence? Is there purpose to existence? All of these questions which so many have spent time and given insight into. At any rate, this level caused me to go back and introduce the idea of observations, qualitative or analysis, contrary views, synthesis, and thesis. And part of this structure comes from teaching physics by investigation. What a beautiful, wonderful experience to see the joy in children as they discovered for themselves and developed the skills they needed, like observing an object moving and recording distance and time, and then plotting it and operationally defining speed, and then with direction and space, velocity, the vector quantities, and developing equations for an object in motion under acceleration, so forth, out of their own graphs, and learning how to make an equation of a graph. And such joy. How sad to see. That was when I started teaching. It was shortly after the space program had been put a man on the moon, but during the space program they had learned that the people were not prepared by the university. They had mathematicians that didn't know their fingers from a hole in the ground, and they had engineers that could just use slide rules, didn't have the abstract mathematical skills. And so to do the same job, they had to have both an engineer and a mathematician, and there was a lot of confusion. So they realized that they need to be integrated and learning from experience. Of course, they knew that at Bethlehem Steel. Hire an engineer out of the university was useless for a number of years until they just walked around and become competent in knowing something of the physical reality rather than the book learning. And at any rate, These levels of investigation played a role in the structure that I have. Before going on, let me insert two very important things that made this possible. From the space program, there was an investigation. How many people can one person coordinate to have a project be coherent? And because in giving a contract, one of the things that many companies would do is cut down on the coordinators, that have one person coordinate many people to reduce the salaries for coordinating. And so they did some research. What is the optimal number of entities that one person can communicate with and coordinate a group project? Now, it turned out to be around 8. And if you I started with class sizes of 12, and 14 and 16, but they were in groups of 2, so that would be 8 groups or 6 groups, and to have them working together. It worked out just wonderful with class size of 12. Unbelievable, beautiful. At 14 was all right too. 16 getting a little bit heavy. I mean, we're talking 8 pairs. But the other thing about this background research was, yes, by learning by activity is slower than learning by memorization or lecture. But the retention rate and the insight is so much better and deeper that there's no comparison. What we're doing to children is a crime. And the propaganda against teachers in New York State that they don't want to pay for it, unbelievable. And I installed the computer software. They got a bond issue and put there were 10 computers. There was one printer, and in every elementary classroom. And my job was to instruct the teachers and install the software and instruct the teachers that they could. The background of this is I had been given a special class called Math for the Building Trades. A number of the boys in that class had been thrown out of other schools. It was a special educational program that I put together for them, and I was given a computer lab. And when they didn't do their homework or something, these bad boys, they had to stay after school, which turned out to be a blessing. An hour after school every day in this computer lab, were doing work and doing their homework and spending time with them. I built a relationship that I could help them. But in the same time, I had to learn the software. The computers were relatively new, and this was in the early 90s. And they hired a technician, but much of the software he wasn't able to install. So then later in the 90s, and they got all these computers for the elementary school, and I was ready for retirement. They gave me a semester to go around and help other elementary school teachers where the technicians were having trouble with installing some of the software, and the teachers needed instruction too. So at any rate, that's the background for that. We're going back to the 1990s. As they were just getting, there were 10 computers in the classroom. There were 2 printers, as I recall, in a hurry here now. But the point I wanted to make is, I went to all the elementary schools. There were 4, I think, in Sweet Home. But in the elementary classrooms, I only saw one teacher that I wouldn't want my children to be with. Many of them had they were learning by activity and had reasonable class size with a teacher and a teacher's assistant. The children were learning by engagement rather than sit down and shut up type stuff. At any rate, just wanted what we need to do to respect children, that they can, while nerve growth factor is present, they can have the healthy development of having curiosity and the working relationships like children on a farm. Children love to work in a healthy environment where there's care and discipline. The other thing, of course, you can't teach children, you can't discipline children without a relationship of caring. I learned that teaching math for the bad boys, and I kept them after school night after night if they didn't have their homework done, and it built a relationship. I could work with them. That's another thing. Let's get on with this. Now back to the structure of laboratory learning, which gave me much of the insights for the structure of this ontological encyclopedia. The structure of the experiments was the students had their curiosity. What are we going to look at? What materials do we need to investigate this? And how we put them together. Then the observations. Procedure for making observations and the observations, then the analysis, and then the conclusions, and then the discussion. What a joy to see them learning rather than memorizing like cults have them memorize blah, 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 whether it's yes, very intellectual. Look at the Jewish for thousands of years of memorizing the Torah. And then look at the Muslims in the madrasas, blah, 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 and they read Surah number 9 and worship this man who was a pedophile, had sex with a 9-year-old, and chopped the heads off of over 600 of the Jewish tribe because they didn't help him against his own tribe. And he is the model to be memorized and worshipped. If you say something against him, it's a death penalty, and according to the book. And they've got children memorizing this, so they go off killing themselves and other people, and the community rewards them with money and honor. Don't kid yourself. Deceive the unbeliever, but you better be a good Muslim in the mosque. Here in Russia, where I am, it's not a joke. They're killing peaceful imams who don't preach this Quran. Yes, there are many good Muslims. I've had Muslim friends. But to indoctrinate children is a crime against humanity. Nobody seems to be strong enough to say it. But let's get the foundation of reality to try and help these people overcome the evil that has gripped them. All right, and because don't kid yourself. On the other, here's the alpha male dominance on this side, and on the other side is the look at me, feminization and homosexuality of those that the alpha male beat up, and they were off in the bushes having fun and didn't want anybody to have any authority over them. And attracted the young girls, naturally attracted the invader, because one of the simplest laws of behavioral reality is what makes babies, what makes the genetics of the future. And it's the invader, the rapist, and it's the dancing little girl who looks so pretty that she gets pregnant and has a baby. That's one of the things that projects into the logic, so important in there too. Why the great apes mothers don't kill their babies and breastfeed them to often the second molars. They don't project the hate of the rapist onto the product of the rape. They don't have logical speech, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They don't project that resentment of the violence done to them onto the product of the violence. But with logical speech, humans for millions of years now have had logical speech to be able to understand, and that resentment of the alpha male rape and violence, both of the male genetics resenting the violence done to them, and the female, but the females project it onto the offspring, the product of the rape, because they have the logical speech to make that connection for a couple million years. But let's get on with it. We're talking about physical reality and making a foundation that we can talk about something from the spirit of truth, investigating and learning the laws of reality rather than mocking them and denying children their right to a healthy pregnancy, childhood, and the development of their potential for being able to enjoy life and contribute to it.